Hi everyone, I'm standing here with the living windsurfing legend Bruce Matlack here in Motala during the 4th Kona Windsurfing World Championship, and he has promised us to introduce us to a very classical board, the Windsurfer.
Yes.
And but before telling us about the board, Bruce, tell us about your own windsurfing background. When did you start windsurfing?
Wow. Well, 40 years ago, this year. This fall will be 40 years. Also, 40 years ago, I was much younger.
Of course.
But I started in 1969 in Santa Barbara, California, and I saw from a distance the developer, Diane Schweitzer, teaching their first dealer how to do this in the surf on the sea. And what is this? The sail is falling in the water. It must be someone in trouble. So I went down and immediately found out about it. And then I started. And I waited for one to come so I could try it. And we had no lessons, no special equipment. And so I went cold water, and I did it right away. One day, and the second day I went right to the surf break off of the breakwater to try to surf, because this is to me what it was all about.
So you got caught from the very first minute?
The very first minute. I have to go because I was trying to surf a sailboat through the surf for 2 or 3 years and breaking the mast, breaking things. So this was
the way to break through the
obvious. Obvious. This is surf break, coming in and out and not break things. Yeah.
And you got quite a good track record. You became the first U.S. champion?
Yes, first national champion in 1972, and then I did the same thing in 1973, and they were in Mission Bay, California, San Diego area, and that was the first when the Europeans first came over and raced against me, and I won that too. And then in 1974 I was second or third in weight class, I don't know. And 1975 was the big European Worlds held in Bendor in France.
Right.
And I think there were 600 boards, and it was crazy. And
600, pretty impressive.
600 boards, and
you were sailing these boards.
Yes, and the Europeans, they never sailed in this stronger wind before. They didn't think it was possible. And of course in California we sailed in this wind all the time, had much more time. So we used to take this dagger board here, and we would, in the early days, earlier than this one, it had just 2 strings coming here. And you would put the strings on your elbow, because if you tried to sail with this board, it would hydroplane and fall you over, knock you over. So you can imagine on 2 strings, this could twist up.
Wow. And
it would twist around one way and cut the circulation off to your arm, and then you have to get it to spin the other way so it would untwist. You couldn't get it off your arm. If you had to get it off to put it back in to go to windward, it was all tied around your arm.
Right.
So then you have to stop and put it back in and lift your sail back up. Or some people were good with the sail, holding it with one hand and doing it with one hand. But so what happened in the first world when the Mistral winds came through? I mean, not the first world's in France. Everybody started falling like flies, and we just pulled our dagger boards out and just playing through. With the water would come through here and up over your shoulder. You had to be careful it didn't come in your face.
So you had sort of a cascade of water coming
a fountain would come into your face. You had to look to one side, spin the board, and the water would come up over your shoulder then, so you could breathe. You actually couldn't breathe with the water, the amount of water coming through here.
And what you say about the speed, how fast did you go?
Oh,
you think?
Oh, you see in that movie we just made, Wind Legends.
Wind Legends.
Yeah,
right.
There's a shot of me at Newport Beach going like that, and I think we were doing probably 20.
20?
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And you told me something about the fin also.
Yes.
If we have a look here at the fin, what was special with the fin?
Well, this board is a vintage, I think, 1976, 77, and it's made by 10K in Holland. First they made sails, and then they made the fins, but they put the label right on here, the little Tenkati label. And since I was the measurer, I was so upset, because that of course makes turbulence, and we were all very particular.
So what did you do then?
Well, we would try to look for the ones from the States, you know, and this is what you want to protect against in one design. You want to have all the same equipment so competitors aren't looking for the best part to change. So even little things like this can be very important. Now you can see it's very wobbly. That's the way they all were, and so that's just the way it was. But we're making all this, we're working with all the same equipment, so it really doesn't matter if we all have flexible fins.
Flexible fins,
but because this little fin is so small, and because the center board is right in the middle of the board, it turned very rapidly. So if you had a big tall fin there, it would turn slowly. But so it was very tactical. We had a lot more match racing because a lot of crossings, you know. So that was very different than today's board. So.
And what would you say about the shape?
Well, yeah, the shape came from, as far as I know, came from a tandem surfboard, where a couple would have competitions in the surf in Southern California with a man and his lady. And because it carried two people, one and two, it had very straight lines for a long ways, which doesn't make for a very good sailboat or sailboat. So, but that's the way it was, and I have an original board that the mold was made off of to make this, and we called it Baja surfing then. We didn't call it windsurfing at first.
What does that mean, Baja surfing?
Baja means, translation is Spanish for lower.
And why do you say Baja surfing?
Well, because we went to Lower California before California was separate from Mexico. And so everybody calls it Baja there, which is...
Was it the special conditions, or was it because it was regional?
Yeah, very good point. Because really it was made, Windsurfer was made to surf on flat water. Right. Because we already had surfboards for the waves, okay? So we called it, it was designed, they thought, well, we could make all the country in the United States that has all these lakes, we could open it to surfing. And it went slowly there, but in Europe they got the concept.
They did?
Oh, very quickly.
So when would you say that it really took off?
It took off in 1975 when we were here at Bendour, France, when there were 600 boards and went crazy.
But there was a young American that attended in '78, wasn't it? The skinny guy?
The skinny guy was Robbie Nash, and it was 1976, the year after I retired. I retired when I was 30, and he was 13, 85 pounds, went 500 board fleet in Nassau, the Bahamas, and won everything.
How was it competing with him?
Well, I only competed against him twice. I tried to make a restart a couple of years, '78 in Cancun and at the Pan Am World Cup in Hawaii in his home waters. And I knew I was done. I mean, this kid was so fast, and he was very good for the sport. He was a real gentleman, and he still is today.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like you.
Robbie Nash.
Like you, Bruce. And tell us about the rig.
Well,
this was the rig you were using.
No, the original rig had a laminated teak boom, teak wood, and it had a rubber bumper here. It was white, and we had no harnesses. You see, nothing.
No harnesses.
Nothing.
So how did you manage?
Well, we had some tricks. We sanded them with very coarse sandpaper, and at one point I started putting gouges with a file. And then we had the old chicken grip. You couldn't hold on anymore. Your arms just gave out. And so you would sail like this, and then you'd go like this and sail with the chicken grip. We call it chicken wing. And then you get tired, go back, and then tack on the other tack, whether it was a wind shift or not, because